From the race to the finish, I have kept the faith. My dear friend, vaya con Dios. Gracias.
I fell in love with my country when I was a prisoner in someone else's. Senator McCain spoke these heartfelt words as he accepted the Republican nomination for president in 2008. They were the words of an authentic American hero. We all know how the story goes. A fiery Navy pilot shot down by the North Vietnamese over a lake near Hanoi. As his plane spun out of control, he bailed out just in time to plunge into the lake below. That pilot, a young John McCain, was taken hostage as a prisoner of war, where he spent more than 5.5 years, almost 2,000 days. He would endure countless beatings, torture, solitary confinement, and mental and emotional anguish that none of us will ever have to endure. After getting to know Senator McCain, I felt compelled to visit Vietnam. I wanted to see the places where the will of John McCain was tested and forged. I saw the lake. I walked the steps. I sat in the cell. And the ordeal that my friend survived became all the more real. Many people might wonder what a young African-American kid from Minnesota and a highly decorated Vietnam War hero turned United States Senator might have in common. Well, I thought of a few. I'm black. He was white. I'm young. He wasn't so young. He lived with physical limitations brought on by war. I'm a professional athlete. He ran for president. I run out of bounds. He was the epitome of toughness, and I do everything I can to avoid contact. I had flowing locks, and well, he didn't. How does this unlikely pair become friends I've asked myself the same question. But do you know what the answer is? That's just who he is. Over the several years I had the privilege of spending time with Senator McCain, sometimes champion what was true and just, and saw people highly regarded. He believed to be right, and diligently for decades. He took that same love to Washington and boldly advocated for the freedoms and liberties he had grown to love as a young Navy pilot. But the love I saw most was the love he had for his wife Cindy and his children. I heard him speak about them often, and the love always came pouring through in every word. Senator McCain, it's been a true honor to call you friend. Your toughness and bravery inspired us. Your sacrifice enriched our lives. Your devotion to the people of Arizona, our nation, and your convictions won our admiration. Your love set an example for all of us to follow. Jackie Robinson once said, "A life is not important except in the impact that it has on other lives." Senator McCain, we will miss the blessings of being in your presence, but we will never forget the impact you had on the world, and more importantly, on each of the lives that you touched. We are all better for having known you. Rest in peace, my friend.
My name's Joe Biden. I'm a Democrat. And I love John McCain. I have had the dubious honor over the years of giving some eulogies for fine women and men that I've admired. But Lindsay, this one's hard. The three men who have spoken before me, I think, captured John, different aspects of John in a way that only someone close to him could understand. But the way I look at it, the way I thought about it, was that I always thought of John as a brother. We had held a lot of family fights. We go back a long way. I was a young United States Senator. I got elected when I was 29, and I had the dubious distinction of being put on the Foreign Relations Committee, which the next youngest person was 14 years older than me. And I spent a lot of time traveling the world because I was assigned responsibility. My colleagues in the Senate know I was chairman of the European Affairs Subcommittee. So I spent a lot of time on NATO and then the Soviet Union. And along came a guy a couple years later, a guy I knew of, admired from afar, your husband, who had been a prisoner of war, who had endured enormous pain and suffering, and demonstrated an overwhelming desire to make the time we had there worthwhile, to try to do the right thing, to think about how we could make things better for the country we love so much. And John and I ended up traveling. Every time I went anywhere, I took John with me, or John took me with him. And we were in China, Japan, Russia, Germany, France, England, Turkey, all over the world. Tens of thousands of miles. And we would sit on that plane late in the night, and everyone else was asleep, and just talk, getting to know one another. We talk about family. We talk about politics. We talk about international relations. We talk about promise, the promise of America. because we're both cockeyed optimists and really believe that there's not a single thing beyond the capacity of this country. I mean, for real, not a single thing. And when you get to know another woman or man, you get to know their hopes and their fears. You get to know their family even before you meet them. You get to know how they feel about really important things. We talked about everything except captivity and the loss of my family, which had just occurred, my wife and daughter. The only two things we didn't talk about. But I found that it wasn't too long into John's duties that Jill and I got married. And Jill is here with me today. 5 years I had been a single dad. And no man deserves one great love, let alone two. And I met Jill, who changed my life, and she fell in love with him and he with her. He'd always call her, as Lindsay later would travel, he always call her Jilly. And matter of fact, when they'd get bored being with me on these trips, I remember going to see Karen and Lise in Greece. And he said, why don't I just take Jill to dinner? I later learned that they're down at a cafe at the port, and he has her dancing on top of a cement table drinking ouzo. Not a joke. Chile. Right, Chile? So, we got to know each other well. And he loved my son, Bo, and my son, Hunt. As a young man, he came up to my house. He'd come up to Wilmington. And out of this grew a great friendship that transcended whatever political differences we had or later developed. Because above all, we understood the same thing. All politics is personal. It's all about trust. And I trusted John with my life, and I would. And I think he would trust me with his. We both knew then from our different experiences that, and as our life progressed, we learned even more, that there are times when life can be so cruel, pain so blinding, it's hard to see anything else. It was the disease that took John's life, took our mutual friend's Teddy's life, the exact same disease 9 years ago, a couple days ago. And 3 years ago, it took my beautiful son Bo's life. It's brutal. It's relentless. It's unforgiving. And it takes so much from those we love and from the families who love them that in order to survive, we have to remember how they lived, not how they died. I carry with me an image of Bo sitting out in the little lake we live on, starting the motor on the little boat and smiling and waving. Not the last days. I'm sure Vicki Kennedy has her own image, maybe seeing Teddy looking so alive on his sailboat out on the Cape. And for the family, you will all find your own images, whether it's remembering his smile or his laugh or a touch on the shoulder or just running his hand down your cheek, or just feeling like someone's looking at him, turning and see him just smiling at you from a distance, just looking at you. Or when you saw the seared joy that crossed his face the moment he knew he was about to get up and take a stage on the Senate floor and start a fight. God, he loved it. So to Cindy and to the kids, Doug, Andy, Sydney, Megan, Jack, Jimmy, Bridget, and I know she's not here, but to Mrs. McCain, we know how difficult it is to bury a child, Mrs. McCain. My heart goes out to you. And I know right now the pain you're all